I know somebody who froze a mouse, and they went into a heterosexual play and entered it into him. It melted. He had to go to the hospital because the mouse, when it got loose or whatever came about, it just started going crazy in him. And there's people who do stuff like that, and it doesn't
What?
mean. I am so sorry.
Honestly, that it surprises me, but I heard a story about somebody using a gerbil too. Because
Yeah,
my
gerbils.
friend
Some.
works in a hospital. When she used to work in a hospital, and she said a guy came in face down with a gerbil stuck in his,
In
yeah.
his head.
Hi, welcome to my comfy couch. Now, this episode is a real one. This episode is about dating men who are secretly gay. So I need you to get nice and comfy and pay attention and let us know what you think. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about it, and keep supporting us, okay? We appreciate each and every one of you watching us every week. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my comfy couch. With me today, say
Hello.
hello to my guest. Say hi to Rosanna.
Hi.
Say hi, Juju.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing?
Okay, so this episode today, woof, it's a hot one. It's a hot one. This
Lord.
episode is about dating men who are secretly gay. And I just want to give a big shout out to Juju, who came on the show and is deciding to be so open with us. I so appreciate it. I know
No
this is a really
problem.
touchy subject, and you're so brave, and thank you so much. And thank you for Rosanna, because I was trying to get other women, and and some of them were like, "Ooh, this is too hot for me." So thank you guys so much for committing to being on the show. But I thought this was something really important to talk about. I think a lot of women are, a bit concerned about when we're meeting men to kind of identify if they are straight or not, right? It
Mhm.
seems like there's a growing number of people that are kind of coming out the closet, so to speak, that are kind of engaged in this kind of activity. And it might not always be clear to us if that's the case. So I kind of brought Juju on to kind of, from the female perspective, we could kind of speak with him and have like a real conversation about this. Okay. So Juju, we're gonna get it straight, get straight into it, Juju. Okay.
Yes.
How do you think, as a woman, can we tell if we're getting to know a guy? Like, are there any signs? How can we tell and kind of pick up on if the guy really is, if he goes both ways or not?
I mean, there's a couple different things. I mean, it's not really like set in stone per se, but I mean, a lot of guys you can kind of tell also because they kind of do the same thing like they do for women, but they just do it towards men. So, like, the wandering eyes, the fact of staring people down a little too long, or like some people who just have like this macho kind of thing, like if they see a gay person or gay guy, it's just like they get wholly offended. It's like, "Arr," like so like little things like that, I would say.
So if they're like, oh, okay, so sometimes that's kind of like a front when they're like overly homophobic, that could
Yeah,
be
like,
a sign too.
yes, that's one of the biggest signs, I would say. Like, I tell a lot of people or some friends of mine that are women, it's like some of these men, when they're too like overly homophobic, anything gay is like they just snap, or it's like, oh, so it's like, yeah, sometimes that's like the biggest one of all. I'll say that's number one.
Wow. Wow. Okay, now. Because
It's like,
because that's the thing, is that I was kind of talking to this guy one time, and we were kind of getting to know each other, kind of seeing if we would work it out or what have you. And it's like I had all these little signs, and I was thinking, okay, I'm not sure if the guy is gay, because he didn't have those signs where he was homophobic, but on the other hand, he seemed super okay with the idea. Like when I met him, he was like, oh, I could be your stylist, I could dress you. He knew where to shop for like plus size women. He asked me like, what do you think about gay people, like, or bisexuals? And he would say things like, oh, it was a presidential election going on at the time, and he was like, oh, I really like this one, but he's gay, so people won't really vote for him. He's been to a gay bar before, he's danced with gay men, he has gay friends, and it's like, okay.
Get rid of him.
So Juju,
get rid of him.
so that's the thing, Juju. It's like, okay, on one side, I want to be like, man, he's so confident about himself that he can do this and go these places and have these kinds of friends. But then, and then even the way he spoke too, I was like, it was just, so that's my whole thing is like, you don't want to judge people and make them feel like they're not men, they're not masculine enough, and you have to be all aggressive. But it's like, where's the fine line between where you're like, okay, maybe this guy really is, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I could almost bet you a good dollar, your bottom dollar, that he probably swings that way. Yeah. You know, I'm not gonna tell women that every man who's overly aggressive towards, you know, homosexuals is gay, or I'm not gonna tell you that some men are just, they have feminine, you know, tendencies. There's some men who are just very open-minded. And what happens a lot of the times is these men, you have to be very careful, you know, because it's so easy to cross over. Yeah. Wow. So it's like, you know, so that's why a lot of the times, like even in the heterosexual world, like, I don't know if you notice, like a lot of women sometimes don't like to have threesomes with their husband or their male partner, because it's almost like you're opening Pandora's box for something later on to happen. So in the same senses, I'm going to use it with homosexuals or men who are in the DL. It's like, you don't want to be too open to that conversation, because next thing you know, little by little, it's either they're going to do it behind your back, or it's like, oh, my wife is great. She's cool. She loves other men, and she introduced other men. She welcomes that. And that's when you start to slowly creep into Pandora's box.
And I think you're right, because I have heard different straight men, and even him mention that, you know, the gay friends, some of his gay friends will be like, oh, you know, you never tried it. How you know you're not gonna like it? You never tried it. So it's like they kind of test the waters to see if they could, you know, get the men to swing their way.
Right.
So would you say that's a red flag if a guy had a lot of like gay friends?
It's not a cut and dry answer, but okay. in the heterosexual world, most people would say yes, because the normal man, as you guys know it, they would not welcome a lot of, you know, of their homosexual friends, or they would not be open to it, because again, there's that stereotype behind it that women look at. You know, oh, well, he got too much gay people. Oh, he know too much gay this. Or why is he so open to the gay this, you know? So again, it's not as cut and dry, but you also have to look for the following signs of how open is he to this? You know, how welcome is he? How close is he? Does he take it that step further, in the senses of like, he's always over there, he sleeps there, like he's texting all the time with them, or like he's so open to the idea of.
Okay, that makes sense. Rosanna, did you want to jump in maybe with your experiences or any questions you have so far?
Well, I started talking to this guy a while back, and right off the bat, like, I noticed the different red flags. Like, he would be like, oh, last weekend my friends and I went to a gay bar, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. He's like, yeah, I had a lot of fun. And I was like, okay. And then he's like, oh, we trying to go again. I said, oh, okay. And then he's like, are you LGBT friendly? And I was like, well, I don't discriminate or anything like that. You know, I don't have a problem with the lifestyle. I mean, I don't have homosexual close friends like that, you know. But he was like, oh, okay. And then it sounds like he was trying to see if he was really all the way there, because the first thing he told me was he left with a couple guys' number. He messed with one, but then that was it. And then he says that he doesn't identify as bisexual in public, but he would mess with them, the guys, in secret. And then he would tell me, like, he never went all the way. he just did oral. And I was like, what? So I knew off the bat, I was like, okay. So I was grateful that he was straight up and telling me, the lifestyle that he lives and, the type of clubs that he frequents and stuff like that. And I was like, I just couldn't do it. I really, really couldn't do it. I say, I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to work or whatever, So it was something new. Like I've never experienced that before. So they always say you never know how it feels until you're actually put in a situation like that. And it was I was a little bit stunned that I actually got into a situation like that. But there are guys that would do those things on the side, but they don't identify as it yet. It's like, and it's funny because it's ironic because I was actually trying to get him to admit it, but he wouldn't. So, and I'm like, but you're doing these things, so why aren't you identifying as bisexual in public? But you're going to these places, you have, gay friends. I said, I don't have any problem with gay friends. I think gay friends are amazing, as a matter of fact. I said, nothing's wrong with that. But if you're having these kind of relations with them, but you're still passing off as heterosexual, then something is wrong.
Yeah, Juju, and that's not the first story I've heard of that. Like I've heard of people, their husband actually, getting head from dudes and thinking, oh, I'm not gay. I just like getting head from dudes. They do a better job. Or I've heard of, people saying that. And it's like, one of my coworkers at one of my previous positions said, like a guy hit on him and he was like, oh, I'm not gay, but I just like to do stuff sometimes, but I'm not gay. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Could you tell me, is it like a stage thing? Like, are they kind of like in denial? And then it kind of tell me, because I think we spoke one time about it kind of being in stages when you're coming out.
Those kind of men, well, I guess I could say that. Those kind of men, they would never. No matter how much you push it, no matter how much you tell them, no matter how much you could reiterate what they said and say it out loud, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of, like, most guys are just, how can I put it, in the relationship world of, how they say, oh, like, why don't they want to put a title to our relationship? Like, why do we have to just be friends? Or why does it have to be we're together? Why does it have to be my wife? And stuff like that. So it kind of goes, kind of hand in hand, where it's like, I'm a man, like, I like women, and that's what it is. What I do or what I allow other men to do for me has nothing to do with my preference as a male liking a female. It's more of, I like candy and I like Hershey's, and that's the chocolate I eat. It doesn't have nothing to do with, oh, I'm gay and I like men to give me fellatio. No.
Wow.
They're just not ready to accept that that's part of themselves yet. It could be shame, it could be, worried about what other people say. It could be like those variables or reasons.
I mean, yeah, it could be a variable of reasons, like you said. Some people, it's just a shame thing. Like, the minute you say you are a homosexual, it's like fire and brimstone come down on you, and you're like cast away in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more so the threat of that a lot of them. But even the men that are open to say that, I like fellatio from another man, it's crazy, but it still doesn't mean that he's gay.
So you wouldn't classify them as at least bisexual? Like
that's what I was thinking.
You can classify them as being bisexual, but then it's like you're opening Pandora's box. So it's like a lot of these men, it's like, it's so tedious to tell me just because I like head from another guy or the same sex that I'm gay or I'm bisexual. I'm not. I like women. This is what I like. Women is my everything. I date. I want to be with a woman. Women can give me fellatio as well, but it's just that sometimes a man knows what to do. Just like some with women know how to pleasure women better than some men do. And again, you find yourself crossing a line that is very thin, because it's sometimes all about pleasure.
Yeah.
It's all about pleasure. So it's not necessarily that I'm gay or I'm straight. It's just that the pleasure that I receive from a female is not as heightened, not as great, not as wonderful as if I was to receive it from a man.
But Julie, Juju, how does one get started in this? So you grew up your whole life, having relationships with women. How does one transition and end up getting head from, a guy? Does he start surfing the internet at first? He maybe stumbled upon a porno. Like, how do you
Oh
Oh
Lord.
does one
God.
transition into that?
um uh, it could be various. It could be the fact of so I'll give you my example. So for me, when I was, and it didn't have nothing again to do with sexual preference. It was when I got to a certain age, it was like sex was there. And for me, it was like, oh, okay, I heard of, people getting fellatio. I've heard of people having actual sex. And it was just like, oh, okay, this is cool. But then you find yourself looking for the next best thing. And this is where, again, some people get in trouble because it's just like when you start to become fluid, then it's just like, it doesn't matter who it is. You
Mm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a female, male, cat, dog, pig. It could be a tree, a leaf. It doesn't matter. But it's just once you come over and you cross over into the fact of, yo, I need to find the next best thing. And if the next best thing becomes a male, then so be it. But again, I'm not gay.
Yeah, I see.
So you get what I mean?
Mm. Yeah.
But I mean, and some people, it just happens. Their exposure, it just happens to them. And then it's really crazy to say, but again, it just happening could also go along the lines of sometimes it's in you, and it just takes one person or something to just bring it out. And that's where you find yourself hung on a tree like Judas, sorry.
Oh,
Oh Lord.
That's where you find yourself hung on that tree. you
So let me
know?
so let me ask you a question, Juju.
Yes,
Based on your
ma'am.
experience, why do men who are gay or and not out in the open, why don't they just stay single? Why don't they just stay single and have their encounters instead of forming relationships with women and actually getting married, having children with these women? Like, based on your experience talking to them, like, why don't they just stay alone? Like, why
Mm-hmm.
do the whole family thing?
um, Again, it goes back to like the fret. I have a friend that I've known him for a very long time, and from since I've known him, he's always had the, if you want to say, the bisexual tendencies. The fact of jumping here to a woman, jumping here to a man. It's like ultimately his thing was, yo, I can't go home and tell my mother or my father that I like men or I'm bringing a man home. So he made this one sided decision of saying, I'm going to choose women and fight it the rest of the way. But for me, being a realist and knowing just how certain things work out, is just that I tell him that unless you're going into a marriage knowing that this is your ultimate decision, you're not gonna not go back to men. You know what I mean? And that's one of them. Other men just don't give a damn. It's just like, yo, I want a wife on my arm because again, ain't no dude about to be on my arm. You know what I mean? So it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, and
That
then
makes
some people
sense.
and some people they actually just get married and they're happy, and then again something happens to them, whether it just comes out or whether it just takes that one person that they got too close to emotionally or physically, and then boom. you in the gym locker room and you want to know what happened.
Wow.
But do you feel, do they, based on your experience with them, do you feel that they ever feel guilty, like they ever want to confess to the wife? Do they feel like an urge to, you know what I mean, to come clean, to just be free? Or you think they've just gotten used to kind of this double life?
I haven't met nobody in my experience that actually wanted to come clean. Never. I think for them, again, it's the ultimate shame. It's the ultimate, like, now my wife, who respects me as a man, is gonna look down on me now. Everything about me now turns into from a man. Now, she starts throwing the words around, which I must say, in my experience, again, it turns violent. It's a very down spiraling thing on either side, because
Mm.
obviously men, their nature is to be manly, masculine, the
Dominant.
testosterone, the dominancy, the alpha. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
when you start spewing these words like, oh, everything you do is like, you start making feminine connotations, or you start metaphorically speaking in that kind of sense, it starts to break them down. And most men, they go into a shell, and their thing is to be aggressive. Their thing is to lash out. So again, like I don't think I've ever met anybody that has wanted to. And let me say, one or two of them wanted to, like, they've talked about it, but as if they're going to stir up the courage to actually do it, most of the
I don't
time they
think
don't.
I think a lot of them just wouldn't want to lose the family that they have, because I know someone, a younger guy, and he would tell me like a lot of stories, and he's gay and stuff like that. And he would tell me how like a lot of these married men, they would come around like the colleges, and the universities, and they scope out the young guys, the young homosexual guys, and they
Mm,
build relationships with them and everything, and a lot of times he told me that most of them just want to feel that power over somebody else. They want to control that, that masculine side of them. And sometimes it get even a little bit rough, but and then they do everything that they can to keep him quiet. you know they give
right.
him money, pay his bills, do whatever it is that he wants, just so he doesn't say anything, because those guys doesn't want to lose their family. They don't want to lose their kids,
No.
especially the kids. A lot of them, they're
Yeah.
not even in love with the wives. They're
Nope.
not, but they still marry with the wives because of the children. And I was like, well, I was mind blown, because this is kind of stuff that you see on TV, to be honest, and I see
A
in social
lifetime in
and
Hollywood.
stuff. But then my friend telling me all this stuff in detail, I'm like, what? My eyes open up so big, and then Juju saying it and stuff like that. It's like, wow. So it's the children, I would think, that they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose that family vibe that they have. So they would live that secret double life.
So, and they're not guilt. They don't feel guilty. Like, are they justifying it in their mind? Like, what's the mindset there? They don't feel guilty, Juju?
Oh, they feel guilty, but I think for some people it's just like anything. Like, I steal, okay, today, tomorrow it might bother me, but it's just like,
Yeah,
okay, I'll
and
get
then they get
over it.
over it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also what helps people in that situation, or men more in particular in that situation, is that they have the family, they have the woman, they have their lives, like,
Mm-hmm.
literally in order. So it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, I have my honey. It's like when I come home and I have that urge, guess what? I don't have to go on the streets all the time, but I can go to my wife. And then, some men, they actually, I don't want to say play, or they actually persuade their wives or their ladies to engage in certain things that helps them to feel good when it comes to them doing things with other men.
Such as?
Oh.
Oh wait, something just popped in my head. Hold on. Juju, can I answer? Because something popped in my
Go
head.
ahead. Go ahead. It's
Such
okay.
as what?
Juju can confirm, okay, or deny.
Go
I'll tell you a
ahead.
quick story. I was on this online dating website, and you see a lot of stuff on these online dating apps. Okay, the craziest thing that I saw was a guy. He had a photo of his butt, and mind you, it was actually a big butt, slim looking guy. And he specifically said, I'm a submissive looking for a dominant female to peg me. And I have a bubble butt. And I'm in my head like I couldn't decipher like what in the world. And I said, but just look for men. Like I couldn't understand that. So I think that's one of the things that they have women do. They have women, wear the strap-ons and, have those kind of sexual intercourse. And I think that's what Juju's talking about when they try and persuade their wives to do those kind of things in bed. So they don't go out there and look for other men to do it. And I couldn't
Well,
fathom why, because I'm like, why are you looking for a woman to do that? Just go meet a guy, So that confused me a whole lot. I don't know, Juju, if you can answer why some guys do that. I have no idea.
I cannot confirm nor deny the allegations. I'm just joking. Well, that's taking it to the extent of it, but I was like talking more basic. But
Oh, okay, okay.
Since you opened the box, we can go there.
I just said what I saw. I'm like, damn.
Listen, it's okay, but as crazy as it sounds, not all those men are gay. As crazy and out of this world, as hallucinistic as it sounds, not all those men are gay. Again,
wow.
For some of them, maybe few, it's a matter of the next best thing, the next pleasure. And then again, there's some men who are very submissive to women. And I don't know if in your lifetime, if you have seen marriages where a woman is more manlier than the man, and the man is just like a little timid little thing. And it's like, it looks like the woman steps all over him. But sometimes it's just, that's their preference of things. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that, hey, I am gay, but I just want a woman.
Right.
But on the flip side of things, baby, I don't know if you want to indulge in that, especially if you're looking for somebody who's going to lead you into a relationship, a lifetime partnership, or any type of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a red flag? Let's say, because let's talk about all that, right? So if he wants you to stick it in his booty,
check.
Or what about what'd you say? That's a flag.
Run.
Juju, what about eating ass? What if he wants you to lick around that area, eat some ass? What do you think?
I wouldn't say he's gay.
Wouldn't?
I wouldn't say he's gay right off the top. Again, you just have to make sure you know what box or what crack you're opening to let that snake slither in.
Literally, right?
What?
Yeah, you just have to be very careful because there are some men that are very straight that like anal play. Whether it's the little finger, whether it's the licking. Yeah, it's just that, because guess what? A man's G-spot, like a woman, well, not like a woman in the same spot, but a man has a G-spot like a woman, and the G-spot is located right underneath their scrotum, which if you really think about it, it's like going in there and just doing this, and it's right there. So some men like that extra play when you're giving them a blow job or when you're giving them a hand job. It's just like, I like that, babe. Come on, let's do this. It doesn't have to mean like, oh my God, I'm gonna go mess with David tomorrow at work. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Sometimes it's literally all about pleasure. But again, you just have to make sure if you gonna open that gate, be ready to man the field in a sense.
Yeah. So I have a quick question, Nicole,
sure.
and Julian too. So basically, let's take, for example, a marriage. So, marriages, people like to spice things up. So if a guy or they decide to do something like that, would you think,
do something like what?
That could maybe open the door? Like, let's say they decide to do anal play with the guy. So were you saying that maybe that might be a way to open the door to that? Like he might start to get curious once he starts, maybe? Or could it be just something that they're trying to do for them?
It could be either or, really. It's just a matter of, you never know, like, you never know what could come of it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I brought up the example of, in the heterosexual world, how some men like their woman to bring in another lady. But guess what? Another man would never want that man would never want another man to come, but he would want another woman. But
Right.
when you start to open that gate, it's just like now you have to worry about, is he only doing this with you? Is he going behind your back? Now, is he cheating? Now, the same woman that we did this with, is he doing something with her? Does he, like, so it's a lot of things that it opens your mind to start thinking. It opens your mind, and it sometimes messes up your relationship, because it's like, now it's like, wait a minute, you too comfortable with telling me, babe, let's bring Letitia tomorrow night. All of a
Right.
sudden, all of a sudden it's every week. Now let's bring Ebony. Or let's bring this, So again, the same way it works in the heterosexual world, it could also work and open a portal for that man, and he even could bring it further. It doesn't have to be, again, a homosexual thing, but you never know. It could be like, now, instead of just a regular tongue and finger, he wants things to enter him,
Right.
There's a whole world out there of different things. Like, I know somebody who froze a mouse, and they went into a heterosexual play and entered it into him. It melted. He had to go to the hospital because the mouse, when it got loose or whatever came about, it just started going crazy in him. And there's people who do stuff like that, and it doesn't
What?
mean I am so sorry.
Honestly, that it surprises me, but I heard a story about somebody using a gerbil too. 'Cause
Yeah,
my
gerbils.
friend works in a hospital. When she used to work in a hospital, and she said a guy came in face down with a gerbil stuck in his, yeah.
In his anus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pick up the
Go.
host. I'm sorry. This is a whole new world.
No, but he's not lying. Like, especially people that's in the hospital, they see a lot of stuff. And my friend that's a nurse, when she told me, I was like, wait, what? Like, and she like, the kind of stuff that you see that people come in a hospital for is not necessarily because of they're sick all the time, I mean, the hospital is for sickness, but you see some really, really weird stuff.
So when you put the animal up there, what is it supposed to do? Like, play around in there? Is that what it's?
Yeah, it's a matter of pleasure. Like how snakes slither. Some animals, the way it's like, and for women, how it's men with beards, like how they like that feeling of when you put that beard in there, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. It almost mimics a feeling of pleasure.
Okay.
And again, it goes to the extent, and that's being extensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people just like to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Babe, let me just get this tongue real quick. Let me just get this little finger, and I'm good. But again, it doesn't always necessarily mean. But I will tell you, keep your guard up if that's what you need to do, because sometimes, again, it doesn't always end well for you as a woman.
Thank you.
Because
wow. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm seriously mind blown. Like, you hear about these things, but it's like, it's a lot to take in, because there's so much more than we realize.
Exactly. It's reality.